I will accept the motion to adjourn. Somebody? Somebody?
So moved.
Okay, Bart moved to adjourn. Joe is seconded. Those in favor signify by raising a hand. Unanimous. Okay, thank you very much. We are going to move from this into the work session. Everybody, you all received your agenda for the work session. So I'd like to call the work session to order. We're a little early on. Are we okay with that? Okay. I'm going to call the work session to order at 2:21. Could we have a roll call, please?
Marge,
Here?
Bart Hilliard,
Here.
Tim Garden here, Carol Crothers,
Here.
Andy English,
Here.
Emily Johnson, Nancy Austin,
Here.
Kathy Bachelor,
Here.
Barbara Blake,
Here.
Beth Stingman,
Here.
Bev Longless,
Here.
Joe Magliola, Scott Summers.
Okay, are we okay with the agenda, or do I have a motion to approve it, or do you want to change any part of it?
I guess, it's not clear to me what item 4 is. There's no paperwork connected with it. But I guess I would move just to, delete item 4 for now, since there are several questions. I won't go into the details, but there are several questions that, are unanswered in my mind. I think they're unanswered for most board members, but they're certainly unanswered in my mind. So I'll move to delete item 4 from the agenda.
Do I have a second?
No, that's not a second. Okay, sorry.
Do I have a second? Okay, Bart made a motion to delete item 4 with Joe on a second. I'd like to speak to this since I added it. It's not an action item, and it's just an information item. That's all it is. It's to tell you what I know. And so that's why there is no paperwork, because I didn't do any. Do you want me to write it out for you, Bart?
Well, an email would be nice. Yeah, absolutely. Wouldn't that be the kind of the customary way of informing the board of something rather than doing it in a meeting?
No, I thought the putting it in the meeting was okay. Beth?
Yeah, my response is just, Bart, if there are a lot of questions, it seems like, and I'm not sure what he's referring to at all, but it would seem like a work session would be a time to discuss them if there were questions about whatever it is you are going to present.
See, she doesn't know either. Nellie?
I actually I talked to the chair about this particular item because it's come up.
This didn't come from you.
It did not come from me.
Yep, didn't come from you.
That's correct. But we had discussed it in the FAC meeting, and it was decided that it was really a board question, and that was why I think you put it on the agenda for purposes of discussion.
Okay. That's not the truth, but that's okay. It's close. Let me just tell you where it came from so that Bart can feel more comfortable. I went to the luncheon for the staff, and at that time I was approached by several foundation board members and staff. Is she staff? She is, right? Did I wake you up?
No, I was working actually.
Okay, so I was approached at that time for the board to think about working with the foundation to see if we can repair and work together. That's all I was gonna tell you. I just told you, so if you want to take 4 off, it's okay, because I just told you what I was gonna say.
Oh, well, then that's it. If that's it,
That's it.
then we can just delete 4 and press on.
Okay, we do have to vote on it, yes.
Well,
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor to remove item number 4, GVR Foundation. So you all now know why I put it on there. So is anybody else? Nellie?
Well, I want to speak to it because I'm new, and so I did ask in an email, because we
Wait,
had
wait a
to-
minute. We're not going to talk about what it is, okay?
Well, I just wanted to leave it on the meeting. I'm speaking to leaving it on the meeting agenda. This, the motion to delete it off the meeting agenda. I'm speaking on behalf of that.
Okay.
To speak against taking it off.
Okay,
And the reason why is because I requested that it be considered as an agenda item when I had brought it up at FAC with regard to the role of the foundation, the role of GVR. I was told that it was more advisable to bring it to the board for discussion. The work session seemed like an appropriate place to have that. So I'd like to have that discussion at the point in time we get to it at 4. So I would encourage others to vote no and leave it on the agenda.
okay. Any other comments on this? Beth, you awake? Beth? Yes, she's there. Okay, anybody else have anything to say? Anybody out there wanna make a comment about it?
Well, you guys are really quiet.
If
Madam-
you're gonna
Madam
talk about
President,
this
can I
in
say something?
detail, I don't,
Oh, absolutely not.
we're not gonna discuss what it is.
Absolutely not.
Okay, go.
Okay. My question is, what purpose is it going to serve if we delay it and take it off the agenda today?
You all know why, you all know what I was gonna say, and that's all that we're gonna discuss on it at this point. So, you know, there really isn't any reason to leave it on, and there isn't any reason to take it off. Right? Look, Bart kind of forced my hand on that one.
Madam,
You know,
Well, I made a
I was
motion.
not planning, let me just clarify this. I was not planning on a discussion today about this issue. I just wanted it in front of the board since the GVR Foundation had asked me to bring it to the board to think about for the future. That's all it was going to be, was just to tell you that. Since I just told you that, we do have a motion on the floor to remove it, and a second. So any other, Nellie, you've got one more shot at
I
this.
got one more shot. Thank you. I'd like to say that I think there's reason, to have the discussion with regard to, the roles, of the foundation, particularly as relates to our MAP program. And that's pertinent and timely. It impacts our members, it impacts on the member survey. And so to be able to have that discussion in a working session seems to be very timely to do that. And so that's why I would encourage, to not to be able to have it on the agenda is not to have a discussion on it.
Okay, but here's the thing, Nellie, we're not planning on having that discussion today. The only thing I was going to do was use it as an information tool. I messed up. I should never put it on the agenda because it sounds like I confused everybody. This is not something we're going to go into today. We're not prepared. Staff is not prepared. The board is not prepared. If we are going to discuss it, it'll come back on another work session. Does that make sense? Kathy?
That being the case, I think we ought to hear what you have to say, and I would vote against taking it off the agenda.
Okay. I can say it again. Carol?
I think normally when we put things, even on the work session agenda, we give some information to the board members ahead. I mean, we even write that up in our CDM, I think. If you need to explain why you put this item on the agenda in some background material so that we can make good use of our time here. And that hasn't been done in this case. So I don't mind having a quick discussion, but I think Bart is right.
You know, and I'm fine with that. Nancy, don't let me ever do this again, okay? Okay, let's just vote on Bart's motion to remove this from the agenda. Those in favor signify by raising a hand. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 say remove it. Okay, those who feel it should stay on the agenda. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. It was that 6? Yes. Me. I'm not voting because I messed up and put it on there to start out with. And that's the reason I'm going to abstain. So it's 6, no, let's not remove it, 5 yes, and 1 abstain. Okay, got it, Nancy? Okay, it was Jim. Okay, all right, so it's gonna stay on there. Okay, all right, so the first item is the board and the director's roles, responsibilities, and duties, and, oh yeah, we have to accept the agenda. Okay. Jim moved to accept the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second,
Is that Barbara?
yes.
Okay, Jim moved to accept the agenda. Barbara seconded. Those in favor signify by raising a hand. Unanimous, right? No. Bart, are you voting?
I'll vote no.
Bart's voting no. So it's 11 yes, 1 no. Okay, the agenda has been accepted and we're gonna move to the board and directors' roles, duties, and responsibilities. This is, do you have it? I made this pretty little presentation for you. Isn't that pretty? Don't you just love it? Yes. Don't worry, I sent it to staff so they could fix it for me if I messed up. So the first item that we talked about was the board's calendar and how topics are added. This is for all of us. This is a good venue to take a look at this. It's not really a training session as much as it's a way for us to try to understand where things come from. The calendar right now, and Nancy, feel free to interrupt me if I say it wrong, okay? The calendar right now is updated on an as-need basis by the staff. So you'll find that sometimes it comes out to us and Nancy will have something else that's changed, and so she'll send out another one. I am horrible about not checking those and going back a week later and saying, where did that go? And Nancy had said to me, well, I sent you another one. So when you get a calendar, you really need to take a look at it because she updates it all the time. On that, usually we had all the board sessions, all the work sessions, all the special meetings, all the regular meetings. And I believe we've just added committee meetings. Is that correct, Nancy? Yeah. So that's the calendar and that's how we get that. Beth?
It's my understanding that committee meetings, don't get changed, that they're fairly set in stone. Is that not true?
The committee meetings, and this is kind of something
terms
I
of
learned
time.
this year, yeah.
I know they've been canceled, but in terms of the date and time that they are held.
You know, they have, and Scott and Nancy can probably answer this better than I do, but the way I understand it is, if you have a committee meeting and it's set, it's only set to a certain day because it normally used to be that day. But you as chair, the chair can change the day and the time, and Nancy then has to find the place, and it's usually in room 2. Is that right? Did I say that right? Do you have a better way of saying it? She's shaking her head at me over there.
Us chairs can change the time if need be. There are times that happens. We would like to stick to the calendar that we've been given because the dates are all booked for room 2.
Does that make sense? Did I answer that?
Yeah.
Carol.
Let me just say that there are times, one reason, the last thing you kind of do in a committee meeting is confirm the next date, is there are sometimes reasons, and in FAC, I've heard them more than any place else. But David's not quite ready. Could we do it a different day? It's budget time, maybe we need 2 days. So that's why, just to give background, that we always confirm the meeting. We try to stay on the schedule just because everybody knows it, but you confirm it at your committee meeting. So I think we should have the flexibility to change it, but you always have to go back and Nancy and make sure we can get a room and all those kind of things.
And that's the thing that you need to understand about the calendar, especially you know, Candy and Nellie, because of you being new on the board, but I didn't understand this coming into it, that actually the staff does this report and they send it out to us. And if you see something that's incorrect, then you need to get back to Nancy. If you're gonna get back to Nancy in an email, make sure you copy Scott so that he knows that you contacted her about something. Always copy your emails to Scott. And when possible, copy them to me so he doesn't have to. But he's good at sending them to me, so, you know, if you throw those copies on, then we know what you've done. But the committee chairs can, if you decide that your meeting is normally on a Tuesday and it's normally 4 times a year, and you have to add one and you have to take one off, work with Nancy to do that. Okay? Did I answer?
Yes, on that particular point, I have another question on the board calendar. I don't know what your next slide is, so I don't know if you're gonna cover it.
It's not the board calendar. We're okay. Go ahead.
It's board calendar? I think the question is as a committee chair, if we have a recommendation from it, coming from the committee, who adds that to the agenda? Do we as a committee chair contact Scott to get it on, or is that Scott and his staff that put it on?
Did you just jump off of calendars and onto agenda?
No, this is the board calendar. So how do you get on the calendar? So if I have an action from my committee that I need to get on the next agenda item on the calendar, am I the one? Well,
Oh, I see
the
what you're
calendar,
saying.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. We put things on. I think the calendar, by the way, is a wonderful tool. And I understand it's fairly new in the last couple of years. So this is a wonderful tool just to be able to see how the whole year comes together. And as you look at the work plan and the calendar, I mean, they start to match up as far as what we need to do as committee chairs. So I'm just asking from a procedural standpoint, if I as a committee chair have a recommendation that comes out of my committee and I need to get it on the agenda, is that something that I do as a committee chair, or does the staff do it?
Staff
Because we
does.
need to advance the committee's recommendation.
Okay, so let me go back to that one, and Nancy and Scott, feel free to tell me to shut up and answer the question better. The agenda is generally set for your committee meetings by your committee chair, correct, Cheryl? You nod your head. You don't have to
This,
talk. You
this
can
is
just-
actually something that needs discussion, because always in the past, the committee chair sets the agenda. Since Scott's been here, more of the staff is taking the role of setting the agenda and passing it by the chair. If you got a good working relationship with your staff person, you know, I usually send David ahead, or I sent Nancy ahead an agenda if it's gonna be something different than I thought you'd dream up anyway. And we worked it out, but our CPM says, you know, the director sets the agenda,
Okay.
I believe.
So typically, the agenda is set by the committee chair. So when you have something to add to that agenda, then the person who is your liaison, and that would be, is Nancy your liaison? Is she? David is your liaison. Okay, so you would let David know, and then he would take it from there and let Nancy know so she can change it. Anything that's listed on the calendar is not, you know, the agendas that are listed on the calendar is not absolute. It's only what Nancy knows about and puts on there to kind of give us an idea. But your actual agenda could be actually different than that.
One follow-up question, moving it to the next step, the committee action to get onto the board agenda, to the next meeting, who does that? So if I have a committee action that's been recommended, who moves that to say it's going to be on the June agenda?
To come, but to the board, you
Correct.
mean? Okay, what typically happens? Scott's ignoring me over here. He's not gonna take that one. Okay, typically what happens is you'll have something that's gonna move forward to the board. At that time, your liaison or whoever is doing your minutes will know it has to move forward. Make sure Nancy knows, because she's the one that does my agendas. You know, I know it says in the CPM that I am responsible for the agendas, but I let staff put that together. So if you have something, let her know, and she will then put it on. That makes sense to all of you? Oh, good, Scott's gonna answer.
Yeah, and
Hang on, sir.
we need to make a change. You know, the CPM has stated that board reports are any requested actions submitted by directors, and directors are the chair of the committees, at least that's how I interpret it. Must include background materials and taken to margin. I mean, to me, it's the director's stuff.
Didn't I just say that?
No, you said it was the liaison stuff.
Well, she has to work with her liaison, the same as you have to work with your liaison to get the thing put on there. I mean, you could go ahead and do all this stuff if you want. But, you know, most of us probably, or at least me, I let the staff do the paperwork and work with them because they have the information. So, you know, it is your responsibility to make sure it's correct. Scott, do you have some more to add to this?
Thank you. So yeah, staff, we're following the CPM. Staff is doing these, especially your liaison to your committee is doing the administrative role, the administrative lifting to assist you as the director chairs to do your job. So that's why a report that is put together on behalf of the Fiscal Affairs Committee will say the originating committee is the Fiscal Affairs Committee, for example. It'll say prepared by, in this case, David Webster, CFO, but it'll say presented by Carol Crothers, Director, FAC Chair, something like that. So, and I believe those reports are then sent to the liaison for final approval, but ultimately it's the board or it's the chair of each committee that is responsible for putting that agenda together. The staff liaisons are leaning in and being more responsive to their chairs than they used to be. So that's really the only change. And then we have consistency with our reporting, that kind of thing as well. I've asked the liaison to take a far more active role in committees by making sure that they're working very closely with their chair, that they're working with Nancy to schedule any recommendations that come out of a committee that need to go to a board. We have staff meetings every Thursday. We talk about this very topic about what's coming up, what's coming out of a committee, when does it need to go to the board, et cetera. So we're doing a lot of that footwork because I think that's kind of the administrative role in supporting our directors and the chairs of each committee.
You know, and I think that the rest of you need to understand, a lot of times Carol likes to write her own report. She likes the form and she likes to fill it in so that she knows the information that is on that report coming forward to us is what she wants us to say. And she works with, I'm assuming she works with you, Nancy, on this. I tend to let Nancy put my report together and put it on the paper because I think she understands it as staff. She and Scott understand it better than I do and can say it in a better way than what I would. So she will do it and send it to me. I think that's something you have to work out. But as chair, you are responsible, Nellie. How it happens between you and David or you and Nancy is up to you guys to work out. Did I answer that?
Yes, it did. Thank you very much.
Okay, then the next. There you go. Okay, I could have made this bigger. What is that tiny? I can't either. Yeah, can we make it bigger? Sorry, next time I'll make it bigger. So anyway, the other thing that I wanted to talk to all of you about is the 2 times speaking. Our CPM says very clearly that the directors are recognized by the president. And so before you speak or before you make any motions or do anything, I need to recognize you, which kind of keeps us in some kind of order. But the CPM already also says that at a regular meeting for discussion, the regular meetings are for discussion They're for making action, they're for, votes and that kind of thing. And a director introducing a motion may speak for no more than 10 minutes to introduce the topic. And then comments from directors should be for no more than 3 minutes. And then it says, it goes on to say a little further in there that the presiding officer, which is the president, shall actively facilitate and guide discussions to remain on topic. The board shall avoid creating side topics or asking unexpected questions of staff and each other at meetings. Now, that's our corporate policy manual. It's real hard to keep us in 2 hours. Kathy knows this. Did the same thing when she was president, trying to hang on to you guys and allow everybody to talk. So we do follow Robert's rules. Under Robert's Rules of Order, under debates, and it's, I think, Rule 42, it says, no member shall speak more than twice during the same day to the same question, only once on an appeal, nor longer than 10 minutes at one time without leave of the assembly, and the question upon granting the leave shall be decided by a 2/3 vote without debate. No member can speak a second time to a question as long as any member desires to speak who has not spoken to the question. Now I'm going to show you what I do. And you can thank Scott for this one. Scott said I need to track what we're doing so that I know, who's spoken and how many times. So generally I'll go around and have everybody speak once. And if you've spoken or asked a question, you get a tick mark. And then once I know everybody's done with round 1, then I go to round 2 and everybody has a chance if you have something else to say. To move the question, that's generally where I stop. I know last year I made some errors and allowed some people to speak 3 times, some 4 times, not much, but I'm going to try to hold it to 2. And this was my decision to follow this because the CPM says we follow Robert's rules. And so that's where that came from. Beth.
I guess I'm a little confused because on the page, first page of this, it says, Robert's Rules of Order, there is no limit to the number of times a member can speak to a debatable question. So I'm just a little confused.
Where'd you find that?
Right here on this piece of paper that we would,
Okay, and you have to recognize that there are separate rules for what they call small board small boards, and that's up to 12. We are 12. We don't usually use the small board rules. We take motions and we do seconds before we have discussion. That's out of line with a small board. So because we don't use a small board rule, I use the regular rules, Robert's Rules of Order. Now, if you want me not to follow this, then you need to bring this up in our next meeting in a motion, and you need to have 2/3 vote to get me off of it. Because it's kept us on target, it's kept us pretty close to 2 hours, and we have not had to leave the meeting without finishing our agenda, which also your CPM says we have to finish the agenda. If we don't, there has to be a reason why we didn't, and you have to set a meeting to come back and finish. Did I answer that question? Kathy?
Excuse me, at the time that I was president, I did not have a rule for a 2-time speaking. And the reason I didn't is because in my mind, we are all elected by the membership. And whether or not some board members don't have anything to say, other board members have maybe more than 2 comments because maybe someone else is going to bring up something that one person who has already spoken twice needs to comment on. We still ended our board meetings on time. I think we're doing a disservice for the members if we limit duly elected people to do business to 2 times the speaking.
Okay, but I'm not up for, this is not up for debate today. I'm telling you what I do as your president. I'm telling you why I do it, and I'm trying to explain what the two-time thing is. It comes from Robert's rules. How you did yours 2 years ago is up to you. I finished all of the meetings. I have all the committees make their reports. Everybody gets to speak. And you've gotten to speak many times more than twice. But I'm gonna try to keep us to that 2 hours. Yeah, and try to keep us so that we are within it. And that's, I mean, if you want to do something different, bring it up at the next meeting and put it on the floor. Bev. Hard to hear.
Thank you. I think finishing a discussion with is more important than finishing the meeting on time or even getting possibly through the entire agenda. And your slide that you're showing right now shows Robert's Rules of Order 7 debate, which is a very old version of Robert's Rules. The one that was given to us in our packet today is from Robert's Rules of Order 12th edition and does apply to this board. And I think it's very important in a discussion. I may have two comments, and then somebody else may make a comment and bring up something that I hadn't thought about yet, but which is important for me to address. And to cut me off of that because I've already had my two turns just does not make any sense to me.
Okay, thanks for your comment. I'm not up for, this is not up for debate today, guys. This is a work session. What I'm trying to do is explain as your president and presiding officer why I do it this way. And this is not an old Robert's Rules. This is the latest one that I just downloaded from Amazon. So, this is what it says, and this is what I can do, and this is what I have done. It's no different than what I did last year, and that's what I continue. If you want to change it and you want to have discussion, let's have it put on the next agenda and let's do that. But we're not going to make decisions in here. This is only to tell you what I do and why. Does that make sense? Yeah. Carol.
Next,
A point of clarification, I guess, Marge. I've brought as BAC chair and now as FAC chair, I'm sure I'll bring motions to the board. And I try to give a brief overview of the motion. I certainly don't use the 10 minutes. But as there's discussion, almost always there's questions that come back that I'd like to answer or clarify because I wasn't clear the first time around. Does this 2-time limit also apply to the person bringing the motion?
No, it never has. When you bring a motion before the board, it's your responsibility to make sure we understand it. And that's why usually I give it to you to do the answers.
Okay.
So, yeah, no.
I just want to make sure.
The 10 minutes is in the beginning to keep you from going on for a half hour about something, you know, or to cut it off at a minute when maybe you haven't given us enough, so that you know, according to Robert's Rules, you have 10 minutes to explain it. The 3 minutes, according to the 2 p.m., is so that we individually can try to say what we have to say within 3 minutes. The twice, and speaking only to it twice, is out of Robert's Rules, and since we follow Robert's Rules, I'm sticking with that. And like I said, if you want to debate it or you want me to change it, you need to bring it back to a regular meeting and you need to put it on the floor for discussion and a motion, and you need to have a majority vote. You have to have a 2/3 vote to have the president not do what she's doing. Okay?
Madam Chair, I guess I'm confused what a working session is. I thought in a working session, we talk about the topic and whether, how people not feel about the topics, but in the ones that I have observed, not being a board member, there's been a sense of discussion, a sense of, is there a consensus of should it be changed or not? So I think it's worth discussing how people would feel about bringing up the motion at the board meeting. I tend to, I guess, the Robert's Rules that's reflected up there is new to me. as far as, having a time limit. And, so I would want that further explored, as far as having the updated version. But, I think we can bring it forward to the board, but I'm confused on the working session, whether this isn't the opportunity to kind of talk it through.
Well, it sounds to me like you pretty well talked it through. I mean, I'm just telling you, this is the way I'm gonna run the meeting. You can talk it through if you want, but if you want to change it, bring it back to a regular meeting and bring it up and put it on the agenda. As your presiding officer, I have a right to follow Robert's rules, and I will follow our corporate policy manual. It's gotten us through a whole year. It's gotten us through an awful lot of business. And there are times, many times, that some of you, including Bev and Kathy, have had more than 2 or 3 times. And when I see that that has to happen, I have the right as your president to do that. I try not to, because if we're going to get through all the business, we need to try and keep it moving. So if you want to change it, you want to have discussion about it today, go ahead and discuss. But if you want to make changes, you have to bring it back to the board, and it has to have a majority vote. It has to have a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
I know that's
I
not
would-
making you happy.
Well,
now,
no,
but-
I guess I would ask for a parliamentary inquiry on the point, because I think Robert's rule, it says in our CPM, and based on our board orientation, that we follow Robert's rules unless the board decides otherwise.
That's just what I said. You need to bring it back to a regular meeting.
And so I would look at bringing it back, but I don't know if it requires a 2/3 vote or or a majority vote. So that's what I would ask for a parliamentary inquiry about, and I would bring it back at the next meeting.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions of my leadership here and how I do things? That's the reason this is on here, because it's been questioned why I do it. And that's the reason I do it. It worked for a year. I'm gonna keep doing it. Okay, what's the next one? In my tiny print, work session. Okay, we talked, this work session thing is to explain why when we have a work session, it doesn't say in our CPM, in anything but a regular meeting or a special meeting, that it is open for our members to make comments. When we're in a work session, I always try to remember to ask, do you have any questions? That's something, Scott and I have talked about several times, is just, can I do that? And can I ask the members if they have comments? And then generally, if I remember, we'll do that. If you as a board, when we're in a work session, catch me where I haven't asked that question, please, just say, so we see if we have some comments. Are there any comments out there about, about what we're doing so far? This is more because we've never really talked about this. We've all just kind of gone to these meetings and we've done things. And when I came in as president last year, I made some changes and did things a little different than they had before. And we have 2 new board members. And I was new last year, so it's just kind of so that we get it out, and so we know if we have to bring it back, we'll bring it back in a regular session to discuss it. So generally, as a rule, there is nothing in the corporate policy manual that says that we open for comments in a work session. That is just for us to discuss and understand and go through things. But I do try to open them. You two you taking turns over here? Did she have them up first? Okay, Bev.
Just a quick comment or question, that doesn't apply to the work session, member comments. According to our packet, we were going to discuss how to correctly use the call to question. And I know in the past, that has been used wrong, and I don't mean, with this board, but the very first meeting I went to years ago, I was making a comment and the director didn't like it, so they tried to get me to shut up by calling the question. And I had no idea what they were talking about. So maybe advising everybody, the appropriate way to how to call the question would be great. Thank you.
If we're having a discussion and it's like going in circles where we're all saying kind of the same thing we've been saying for a while, you generally will have somebody that might say, I'd like to call the question, which means I want to vote on this. I don't want to have any more discussion. From everything I'm reading, we should not, Bev is correct, we should not yell that out. I want to call the question, but you should raise your hand and just say, you know, Madam Chair, I would like to call the question. So that everybody knows they would like to have the question called, no more discussion, because it does stop the discussion. Once you say you want to call the question, if Nellie says, I want to call the question, it means you guys can't talk about it anymore. We have to vote. So is that where you were going with that one, Beth?
Yes, I just wanted that brought up and the only problem with that I see is if we've already said our talked our two turns, and I'm raising my hand so that I can call the question because we're supposed to get your permission to call the question or be recognized before we can call the question. And you ignore me because I've already had my two turns, then what?
Okay, I don't ignore you, because if you remember right, the last time you raised your hand on number 4, I said you've already had your 2. And I generally try not to ignore. If I'm ignoring you, please tell me. I don't mean to. You know, I will tell you you've got 2 ticks down here, so I try to move on. But I hear what you're saying. So if you want to call that question, you probably need to raise your hand and say, you know, Madam Chair, I'd like to call the question.
Okay, thank you.
Don't cut anybody off when you do it, okay?
I'll try. Thank you.
The call the question is a 2/3 vote as well.
Yes, it is. It's a 2/3 vote to call the question. And since we have a lot of unanimous votes. So the work session itself, it's mainly for us to talk about this stuff and learn stuff and try to figure things out. And, you know, I do try to remember to ask people who are here, because I think it's important if we can get the feedback from our members and we can get people to tell us, you know, what they think. A lot of times sitting here running this thing, you know, you'll think of things and it may not be what somebody sitting out there thinks we ought to be thinking. So it's real important for me to remember to do that. So, you know, you two could just kind of take turns here.
Yeah, this is a discussion meeting, right? And I just wanted to point out that a suggestion, and I can't find it in the CPM, but the CPM has been rewritten by Mindy, so it's probably not in here any longer. But what we used to do, and I still try to do it as a committee chair, is use the committee time primarily for committee members and be sure all the members, and I think it's true for the board, all the board has had a chance to discuss and then ask for the audience input. And I think that's a fair way of judging. The key reason for having our work sessions, I hope, and I'm with you, Nellie, on this, is so that we have a chance to discuss things and get each other's opinions on things. So I just think that should be the highest priority. And certainly if you have a large group of people out here, or people anxious to make a statement, it makes good sense to ask. But first priority, I think, should be the direction.
Okay, Nellie?
I agree to have the conversation with the majority of the directors, but I feel that in order to further engage our overall membership, which is an issue, that to be able to have a policy that, and you do it already, but to be able to say that we do it every time, so that when people look at the working session agenda and they attend the meeting and want to speak, that they know that they're able to speak on it. I think that engages our membership more and it gives valuable input. And if that requires a change to the CPM, you know, based on the advice from staff, we certainly could do that. But I think it's really an important point to engage the membership more.
Okay. There is no policy that says in a working session that we have to ask. There have been presidents in the past who haven't asked, and I disagreed with that from day one. You know, I do try to ask the members who are willing to come and sit and listen to us to give us what they have in their opinion. Sometimes our discussions get pretty heated or we get long discussions over something. And it's nice to take a break and hear what the members who are here have to say and what they feel. So, you know, any of you, if you feel like I need to ask that question, throw a paper clip at me or something and remind me to ask, because sometimes things get a little crazy and I forget. But I'm not sure that we need a policy, but I'll throw that at Barton, who can decide. Okay, so the last thing, I think, yes, email. This email, board member emails is an interesting thing that you guys need to think about. A board, the reason why GVR gave each of us an email is so we can communicate with them and with each other. But we have to be really careful that we're not creating a vote or we're not setting ourselves up to go around the transparency that this board firmly believes in. So when we communicate among ourselves and with staff by email, we should not discuss policy. We try to keep policy out of the business of GVR. I'm going to ask this board, and it's not policy, Nellie, but I'm going to ask the board anyway, if we could try to be a little bit nice in our email. It's real easy to put in there, boy, you really being stupid, and then hit the send button. And then afterwards, I think to myself, did I really say that? You know, so I think, you know, it's like when I was teaching how to do emails, I used to try to tell my students, always read it, think about it before you send it. And so I'm going to ask all of us this year, there were some really nasty things that were done through email last year. And so if we could try not to do that, that would be good. But let's try not to talk about policy, because if we bring up a policy, correct, Scott? Are you awake over here? Have I put you to sleep yet? Oh, good. So the email is so we can communicate among ourselves and with our staff. And Scott uses it a lot to keep us in tune with what's going on, and Nancy uses it a lot to make sure I'm doing the right thing and trying to put things together. So, and then sometimes we get into discussion on an email, and we probably ought to try not to do that. Agreed? What do you think? No, it's fine. You got something over there.
No, I think that's very important, so that we stay transparent and also stay within the boundaries of the open meeting law. Like, what you please.
So, you know, these are the things that have been asked. I heard some of this from Nellie. I heard some of this from Sandy. I heard some of this from me. And I've had others who have said, why do we do this and why do we do that? And I think it was important, since we had this work session, to sit and talk about this. And is there anything else? Are there any other questions that you might have on this thing? Anybody out there? See, it's a work session, I'm asking. Nancy?
Do we see all of the member emails that have complaints or comments? Do we get all of those?
Yes, yes, and according to our CPM, if it goes to the hotline, then it's staff, then Scott generally, it's either he or one of his, but if it goes to the board, you know, I always get a copy and it goes to the whole board. And I'm supposed to answer it for GVR, and I try to answer every single one, even if it's only to say thank you for telling us this and letting them know that staff will get back to them, or we'll look into it, or we appreciate your comment. So if you're not getting them, please let Scott know if you're not getting those emails, or Nancy. But
I try to answer every email that the member sends, even if it's a thank you for your concern.
okay, and I've noticed, I don't know if any of you have noticed this, Bart is really good, and he always says when he answers somebody, this is my personal opinion, this is not my opinion as a board member. If I'm reading the CPM right, and Scott and Nancy can probably straighten me out if I'm wrong, but I think I'm the only one that can answer for the board. So I try not to, and the vice president, the vice
No,
president.
no individual board member can answer for the board without a vote of the board.
No, that's not what the CPM said this morning when I read it, but it doesn't matter. What we need to remember is when we're answering people, it's your personal opinion, and you need to tell them that in the end. Bart, you usually have something you put on the end. of
Yeah,
your-
I always say all of the foregoing are strictly my own thoughts and not the thoughts of the board as a whole or of GVR management.
Yeah,
And I think it's useful to make that clear. And as to sending emails, one of my very first bosses in the email era used to remind me all the time, don't send an email unless you would be happy to see it on the front page of the paper tomorrow,
that's a good point.
period.
That's a
And
good point.
that's a rule that I have always tried to follow. And I might add that over the years, I've seen my emails, when I was in the Air Force, I've seen my emails in the weirdest places, including appellate cases, in which there's a couple of sentences from an email. So you never know where those emails are going to end up. I might add that those sentences were absolutely correct legally and beautifully written.
We knew that, and we knew that, that's,
So, when we, recently, I did respond, and I have done before, and if I wrote back to the, person, who had addressed the, board, does that email that I sent to that person, unless I CC the board, do other people get to see it?
I always say reply to everyone, so that all of you get my answers, so you all know that I answered what
Right,
came in. And we should do that. If you're not doing that, you should say reply to everyone. And then at least Bart knows what you said in case he wants to say something different.
Well, sometimes I will copy the board on answers that I send to member emails. And sometimes I don't. It's strictly my choice.
Okay.
Now, once I send an email to somebody, obviously that somebody can do anything they want with it. They can forward it and reproduce it, et cetera. So I know that going in. But do I send every email response that I send to a member to the whole board? No. None of your business.
So if it's on the front page, you all know who said it. So, for courtesy reasons and because I generally answer telling people we appreciate them letting us know. And then I'll tell them, that Scott's been copied. I always say I answer everyone. If you feel like you don't want to answer everyone, then don't. But if it bounces back, then you are responsible individually for. Jenny.
Madam Chairperson, I have a question. This is probably a Scott answer. But whenever we see the emails that are sent about, about operations, about things like the spa's not working or this and that, do we ever get a follow-up on that from you that?
Generally, if, this is similar to Nancy Austin's question, but if an email comes into the board, or it's board@GVREC, we will respond to that member as well as the board on whatever that is. It may be a comment, so it may just be, thank you for your comment. But if there is follow-up and this is what we're doing and this is what happened, we recently did that with the Abrego South Spa, then I would include the board in that response.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other things you think? The IT department over here, both of them, they're trying something different. We didn't have a chance to test it today, did we? I didn't see it. Nancy, make it happen again. If you look on the screen up in that, where the GVR, right, I think I'm in the right place, where it says GVR, that's where the timer is going to be. what happens is we're given 3 minutes and you guys are given 2 minutes to talk to us. So we're finding that when Nancy would put the thing up on a screen over there, some of us who have our backs to it can't see. And I have to look around to see it. And when you're out there, if you're trying to see, do I have any more time? Sometimes you can't see it. So I think staff is trying to do something that comes up on the screen. Yeah, it's gotta be a little bigger than that, guys. Yes. I can't see that one. I see the circle. Was it bigger than that earlier? So like if, oh, I don't believe that. I think our IT department can figure that out.
Put it on the timer icon, put it in there. You control that, right?
The IT department warned me that he was gonna try this because we can't see, you know, how close we are when we're trying to stay within our 2 or 3 minutes or our 10 minutes. And so if we, yeah, see, even making it big still isn't big. Yeah, but
I will,
it's a work in progress.
I will thank the board for your feedback. And we will continue to troubleshoot this.
Yeah, we're gonna put that back under IT. Right, Nancy? Yeah, okay. So we'll see what they come up with at our next meeting. Okay, is there anything else? Do we have anything else you want? Oh, number 4. Number 4 I already did. Number 4 is the GVR Foundation.
I'm sorry, there were still other things in this to discuss. But at least I would like to bring up something in the bylaws on attachment 2, may I?
Is it on the written stuff somewhere?
It came in as, on the bylaws under attachment 2, page 4.
On the front of the page?
Yeah, on page 4.
Oh, got it, okay.
So my question is, because maybe my memory is wrong, but it says here, under, Article 7, Section 4, responsibilities of the president shall nominate chairpersons of the board committees, submit these nominees for board approval, and in cooperation with the CEO, ensure effective work of these committees. I don't recall that when the nominees for the chairpersons of the committees were submitted to the board. I just recall getting a sheet saying who's going to be the committee chair.
I presented them at the last meeting. And you voted.
After you handed them out, okay.
You know, I generally try to make sure you're okay, that I would put the name up, so, you know, I would ask first. But, Anna, if you sent me a note, you know, I know which one you're interested in, but I did bring it. Please tell me I did. And we voted on it, right? Okay, so it was done at the last meeting. And if you look through, I thought this was, you know, I think this is great that staff, you know, has given me this, because it's reminded me that, you know, under Section 4, responsibility of officers, it's my job to preside at these meetings. And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I don't shut them down, or sometimes I allow somebody to go over the time limit because I think that maybe they have a little more to say. I have to figure out a way to say, you're close, or can you wind it down, or I don't want to say knock it off, you know? And we've had that.
That should be your prerogative, though, as chair, to let some, you know,
We
have
did
some
have,
flexibility.
we did have that happen. When we had a very violent issue going on here, we did let some people go beyond the 2 minutes. And I knew we were going, but it does say I can do that. It's just that I need to be more aware of it and I need to find a nice way to say it. So. Is there anything else we need to talk about on this? I mean, I think we've kind of gone over all the questions that people have given me and I think, we've had a lot of discussion about this. We are a small board if we want to be, but when we get to 9, we will be a small board and then things will change and you'll have to look. But for now, we mostly do the regular large board things. We make motions, we make seconds, we talk about it afterwards. We open it for our members to discuss and follow those. So if you have any question, that's usually what I try to do. Beth?
Yeah, I had one more question on page 3, the bottom, section 2, limits of authority. It says, if we have to go out to a vote, if it exceeds the 12%, it said, provided the total number of votes cast equals at least 20% of the total vote. So if we go out to the members to ask them, and we do not get 20% of the people voting at all. Like say we want a project that's gonna cost $3 million, and so we have to go out to the members to ask them about it. It's 20% of the total votes in the corporation. That means total people eligible to vote, right?
Rooftops.
Rooftops, right. So if we don't get 20% of 11,000 something of those people actually voting, does that mean that we can't do anything, that we just,
Yeah,
we can't
I think so.
proceed with
Scott,
whatever we were gonna do, right?
It would be somewhere around 2,800, I think.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
2,600. And usually, don't we usually get that many votes, Nancy? Don't we? We usually get. Okay, but you're right. If it isn't 20%, then what happens, Scott? Is it a dead issue then?
Correct.
It just dies.
And that was in the old bylaw too, by the way, that was not changed.
No, that was a good question. I think if the board's interested in doing this, if you see things, we can add this kind of stuff to our work sessions so that we're not groping in the dark and trying to do things when we don't know why. I know when I was asked these questions, it sent me to hunt out Robert's rules. And I bought the book and I downloaded the online rules that are today. And, we, at one time, long time ago, we had a parliamentarian. They used to come to all of our meetings and make them twice as long and try to keep us on. So I think, we just need to be careful and make sure. So if there's anything else that you want, let me know. And I'll talk with Nancy and Scott and we'll try to get, this is in lieu of us taking a whole day to go training or go do a resort thing or go lock ourselves in a room somewhere. If we take the year and we start working on this stuff, maybe we understand it better and it helps me to know what's the best way to run this thing. Okay? Anything else? So do I have to have 4? I have to do 4. I see it. I woke him up, so now he's pointing things at, ripping him out of his book and showing them to me. Almost got out of here. This is not a discussion because we're not ready to discuss. I just want to make sure that you understand. And I know Nellie was approached and she and I have talked about this. I know Scott at some point or another has discussed it, but the foundation board at the luncheon said that they would like to get together and discuss how they function and how we function. And I know Nellie's concern is about the MAP program, and there's probably other things that overlap. And there's probably a history here that none of us fully understand. So that's the only reason I put it on here, was to let you know that they're starting they would like to start this conversation, and I'm sure it's gonna start with Scott. I'm convinced that's where it should start before we start working on it, correct? I did look him up, didn't I? So that's it. So
Well,
do I have a
Madam Chair.
motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
This is, we left it on the agenda for purposes of discussion. I would like to make some comments on the foundation, because I support getting together with the GBR Foundation. I think there are issues. There was a committee that was established. There was an ad hoc committee, a board ad hoc committee established in 2018. And the option of creating such a committee, joint committees of this board and their board, to really talk through all of the issues and how each one functions and what are the opportunities for our members would be something that I would support.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sure this is not a dead issue. I mean, I just wanted to get it in front of everybody's face, and so I think I've done that pretty clearly. So I will entertain a motion from Bart.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Joe seconded, so I have a motion to adjourn by Bart and seconded by Joe at 3:27 PM. Those in favor signify by raising a hand. And it's unanimous. Thank you guys for doing this.